Good evening, squad of the Killing Wall. Oh boy. Tonight is an interesting night. At least for me it is. Um, How do I even begin to talk about this? Well, you see, I want to. I really, really do. It's the idea that I might be critiqued. You know, critique is an interesting concept. Critique is what drives certain things to the forefront and some things to the back into obscurity. And we all know how I feel about obscurity. Good to see you, troops. Beth, Elizabeth, Tristan. Yeah. See, tonight, we're going after critics. Yeah, we're going after critics. We're going after Rotten fucking Tomatoes. Okay? Rotten fucking Tomatoes. But first, as per usual, help Kinko. Donate. Buy one of his shirts. Check us out on Live 365. Listen to Hellfire Radio. Like the page. Share the page. Like this show. Share the show. To your groups. To your timelines. I notice some of you have only been sharing it in one or two places. Share it to multiple places. That's what you need to fucking do. It's the only way to keep me here. And I know you want to keep me here because you like having your nightly briefings, don't you? So tonight we're going after Rotten Tomatoes. Troop Page, glad to see you. Troop Garrett, glad to see you. Troop Elizabeth. Well, Melissa, I'm glad that you decided to come in. See, tonight, it's the Killing Wall. And tonight we're talking about Rotten Tomatoes. We're talking about film critics. We're talking about media critics. That's who we're going after. You see, I have a problem. I have some specific problems with critics. You see, what we have here is how critics look at foreign film. We have a look at how critics view indie films. And then we're going to go after two particular institutions that are full of critics. The Sundance Film Festival and the Academy. That's right, the Academy. That's who we're going after. All individual shits. Troop James, glad to see you coming in. Troop Dizzy, glad to see you. Then hit the rack there, Troop Dizzy. You can always watch us on the replay. So, who do we attack first? You know what? Let's go after the way indie films get judged. Okay? No, not indie films, foreign films. Foreign films would be good. You see, I'm hesitant to speak about it. See, one of the main reasons why I'm hesitant is because I know I'll get viewed a particular way. And you want to know why I'm afraid that I'm going to be viewed a particular way? Because the thing is that to ever attack anything that somebody thinks in some way is somewhat creative, that means that I'm some sort of phobic or some side of God knows what. So I get a little worried. I get a little concerned. And I'm glad that you'll speak openly, Troop Garrett, because that is what I want. I want you to get pissed. I want everybody to get pissed. Troop Gabby, glad to see you reporting in. See, foreign films these days get judged mostly because they're foreign. Then it must be good. You notice that? I've watched a few. And I've noticed something. They all seem to fall into one particular genre or another. And it's a little irksome. Because a lot of films are judged incorrectly based merely upon either place of origin or merely just because of subject matter, not because of quality, not because of writing, not because of acting, not because of set dressing, not because of design, nor music, nor general composition or screenplay. That's why I think you should be pissed. And if you can't get on that ball, that's fine. That's you. Garrett, I am glad that you have your particular opinion. And that's okay. I have mine. Mine, though, unfortunately here, has a lot more weight than yours. After all, this is my show. And when you try to come in here and try to start a fucking argument, no, not here. So, Troops Andy and Tom and Steven, glad to see you reporting in. All right, Troop Steven and Angie, my two chatterboxes. Tonight we're staying on topic. Troop William, glad to see you reporting in. Did you just call me sir? I appreciate the respect. But remember, I work for a living. You see, here's why I don't like foreign film. I don't like foreign film because, frankly, you know, I've seen some films that in many ways they have no quality, yet somehow are seen as innovative. I'll give you a good example. Cuties. Do Cuties deserve any awards? Really? No. No. It did not. I saw it. It did nothing. Nothing. The only thing it did was push a particular subject matter to the front in its own way. And I get that. I get that. But at the same time, it was done rather shittily. It was done rather shittily. Because they made it more of a focus that it was the person's religion. They made more of a focus of that. That's the problem. They completely and totally ignored the whole concept of it's the age that's the issue. I don't know if any of you guys saw this film. This film was basically about some underage chick that saw a bunch of other underage chicks dancing very fucking suggestively. Which, let's face it, we see a crap ton of prostitutes left and fucking right doing this shit on TikTok left and freaking right. You know, and nobody bats a fucking eye. I'm not saying that's good. But they made that the focus of the film, at least outwardly. Just enough to make pearl clutchers clutch their pearls. But then they added the religious element behind it. Suddenly that made the Academy look. That made Sundance look at it. And they drooled. I'll get to indie films in a second, I promise. You see, indie films, even good horror ones, get overlooked. Okay? You want a good indie horror film series that was also foreign? REC. R-E-C. Found footage, yes. But pretty damn good. You're from New Zealand there, James? Here's the thing. There was actually a film from that area that I like, that's horror-based. And I actually liked it. As a matter of fact, it's one of my constant watchers. I throw it on in the background a lot. Lake Mungo. That might be an Aussie film. Not a Kiwi, but an Aussie flick. I'm not 100% sure. REC 2 was amazeballs as well. Here's the bit. Okay? There is a capability of indie and foreign film being great. There is. Don't forget, share this out. It is. It's a great film. Lake Mungo, right, Steven? Or REC? That's right. Killer Clowns from Outer Space was an indie film. You want to know what else is an indie film? I'll name two right off the bat. Yeah, I know. It sounds Australian to me, too. Okay? Here's two horror films that were indie. Paranormal Activity and Blair Witch. Indie films. The August Underground trilogy. I've seen The Ring. Good flick. I've seen all four of them. Yes, it was. Yeah. And it was foreign. I don't know. I liked Blair Witch 3, Tom. It brought things full circle. I dug it. You see, independent films, there's... How do I put this? The problem with independent films is that the more poorly made it looks, the more attention it seems to get. You notice that? There are a lot of indie films out there that you take a look and you got to ask yourself, like, really? Really? They made this a movie? Okay. And, and it's, there's no mainstream quality to it, so why is it getting mainstream attention? I don't get it. I don't understand it. But yet these critic sites, they laud it as the greatest thing that was ever made. I don't know. I've seen a lot of films that have gotten the golden statue. I wasn't impressed. Yeah, Human Centipede. God. Hostel. No. Eli Roth can go suck it. I'm sorry. No. Independent film, you want to know how independent films should be judged? With how mainstream they make it look. And oh God, it irks me because to criticize them gets you termed a racist or some other sort of phobic or whatever. And I'm afraid to. You know, horror has descended to a point right now where the more shock value it has, not shark. You see, I saw Sharknado and I immediately went shark. No, the more shock value it has. You know, I have the August Underground trilogy and the Slow Torture Puke Chamber trilogy, both of which were made for shock value. All right. But the makeup effects are on par with mainstream film to the point where you guys say to yourself, did that just fucking happen? That's how you know you got good fucking quality film. The writing can be shit. The screenplay can be shit. The camera can be shit. But if you've got great makeup effects, it'll stand out. But a lot of these indie films get judged just because, well, it comes from Bengali. Therefore, it has to be good. Why? Because it came from Bengali. And? Well, there's no other films that come from there. It's a brand new film director. Came from somewhere that we can't pronounce. That they had subtitles? No, they felt that would ruin the artistic expression. Really? Okay. You know, I get it. And you want to know what, James? I'll tell you this. Most film today, it's because we got the film that we used to have. That's what the problem is. I'll be straight up honest with you guys. That's why film is the way it is these days. We got the best when we were younger. And we've become desensitized to anything necessarily that was from there because a lot of that was based on shit that we were actually scared of. You want to know why people love zombies? It's not because they're afraid of them. It's because they want to see whether or not they could take them. They're fanboys of it. They want to see if they could recreate the makeup for it. That's why fucking people love zombies so fucking much. It's the easiest to relate to. That's the problem. It's the easiest a person can relate to. There's no shock value anymore to something to scare you. There's no relatability. We've seen Saw. And you want to know why Saw got people under people's skin? Quite literally in some cases. It's because it's visceral. It's because it actually plays upon something that we want to avoid. And it's real in its own way. Conceptual in what way there, Troop Joshua? And I'll continue until you answer. But the idea can be interesting. If you have the idea of something and it's something that can necessarily happen to you, it becomes more real. In which case, then it can throw a person off. It gets their amygdala going ballistic. That's the nature of fear itself. I spoke about this on my other show. And yes, it's a psychological twist to it. It's the reason why some people get scared of films like Paranormal Activity. Because we all hear our house settling. We all think we see something out the corner of our eye. And it's not that they're going to have another Saw. Chris Rock wrote a screenplay for a movie, and it was called Spirals. It's all basically in the can. They were going to release it in July, and the virus prevented everything, so now it's pushed back till next year. But yeah, if something has that element to it where it might happen to you, or it could happen to you, or you could see yourself going through it, it makes you that much more terrified. I agree there, Troop Tom. Not just in movies, but in game as well. And the thing is that Silent Hill has its own place, too. Centralia, Pennsylvania. That's what it's based off of as far as atmosphere is concerned. And you want to know what, Troop Angie? I'll tell you this. You know it's based off of a game, right? It's based off a game series. The first and second films were based off of the first and third games. I've played the first three. There are movies out there that if they were to make, it would lose, the audience would lose its fucking mind with joy. You know, games have become the new literary masterpieces. And when a movie of it comes out, we can't wait to enjoy it. There you go there, Troop Joshua. That's what I'm talking about. And Pyramid Head was an embodiment of a person's sin. You know? And 2 was okay. But if it was its own game and not in the Silent Hill series, it would have been better. I liked 2 was released exclusively on PS2 there, Steven. James. Two was released directly. Was an exclusive to PS2. Silent Hill 2 was not released for PS1. Silent Hill 1 was released for PS1. And I've got it. And I've got 2. And I've got 3. 3 is one of my personal favorites. No, too many zombie movies there, Troop Joshua. I'm sorry. Too many of those. You want to know what game would be awesome as a movie, and it'll probably get done by foreign film because it would be without a doubt one of the best fucking horror series they could come up with, and it could turn into a massive franchise. Fatal Frame. How many people remember that? They made a Fatal Frame game. Yo. And yes, Fortnite does suck there, Troop Angie. But they basically created a version of freaking PUBG as a game. The thing is that they called it. They call it the movie The Purge. I take it, Troop Joshua, you've heard of Fatal Frame? Thank you there, Troop Tom. Yeah. I used to joke and I used to call it Poltergeist Snap. If they made a movie about that, that's it. It would be a mad game, Troop James. And you ready for this? Fatal Frame has one thing about it that wasn't put in the game. And it makes me smile knowing this. You want to know what that is, guys? It's based on a real story. They might have to, especially since the actual location of the Humuro Mansion is a real thing. There is a mansion, it's called the Humuro Mansion. It is known as a haunted location, and they have closed it off from anybody coming near it. See, those would make good films. There was a series of games that came out in the mid 2000s, the first decade. And it was a series of games made by Jonathan Boakes. And they were called the Lights Out, Darkfall film games. He made 3 of them. And they might fuck it up. Stephen House of Wax is actually a remake. Unless you're talking about the original. It was about a train station out in Dowerton in England. And Jonathan had gone there originally to like sketch out the location of this abandoned train station, crafted a whole story behind it. Glad to hear it, Troop Diggs, or Lieutenant Diggs. Sorry. I love it when staff comes in. And Lieutenant Tom. And the train station was there when he was in the process of making the first game, but then it got torn down. So he had to basically recreate a lot of the interior location from memory. It was an okay flick there, Troop Tristan, but honestly, you want to know what? There are too many damn war films out there. I like the effects. That's about it. You see, horror games would make for good horror films, but they have to be executed right. In all honesty. Thank you, Troop Elizabeth, for pointing that out. You know, I always imagine to myself, this is how you could tell whether or not an audience would want to see a film. And I want you all to think about this for a second. Think about a trailer. Okay? You see that green overlay that says intended for all audiences or intended for mature audiences, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay? And the screen is black and there's a slight monologue of something that doesn't really tell you what the hell it is the movie that's going to be coming out is. But then all of a sudden, you hear a sound that is very familiar to you. If you think that sound, thank you so much there, Troop Diggs. If you think that sound would make the entire audience lose their shit, then you know you've got a winner. I'll give you a good example. The teaser for episode 1 or episode 7 of Star Wars. You get a little bit of a monologue. It's kind of dark. You don't really see any scenes from the film. But then you hear the sound of a lightsaber being activated. People lose their shit. Okay? Now, some of you have heard of the Myst games. Some of you have. Some old school gamers have. A couple of new folks might have heard about it when they were doing like, I want to check out some old school games or something like that, or a Humble Bundle or something. But imagine somebody saying, sometimes the words on the page take you to a world in your mind, and other times they take you to the world itself. And then you hear the sound that the game would play whenever you would hit a linking book. That the whole audience would lose their shit. Troop Joshua, I'm talking about Myst, spelled M-Y-S-T. It was a series of games that was released by Cyan Entertainment, C-Y-A-N. And it created the point-and-click genre of games. Troop Sheena, glad to see you in the chat. But yeah, That, seriously, that sound, if it got played in a movie theater, the audience, everybody over the age of 25 would lose their shit. Can you imagine if you're watching a movie trailer and you're seeing a whole lot of space battle left and fucking right? You're seeing aliens causing all sorts of shit. And then the screen cuts to black. And then when it fades back up, you're seeing a reflection of an alien in a visor. And as it's scrolling back, you're seeing that it's more of a square visor, but with a tilt down below here. And the visor is somewhat blue. And as you're looking back further, most of the helmet of whoever the hell it is that's wearing it is red, and then you see gold or yellow along the trim, and it's extending out like this, and you see gigantic fucking yellow pauldrons. Troop Rob, glad to see you tuning in. Can you imagine that? AKA a Metroid movie? It'd get panned by the critics. But the entire gaming audience would lose their fucking minds. The teaser for Silent Hill played the banjo music from the original intro. And the people lost their fucking minds. Although in the first film, they used a lot of the soundtrack from the third game. Let's see. What other games would be great if they had like a sound that was key to it? Troop Elizabeth mentioned it earlier. She mentioned the Legacy of Kain films. Can you imagine if you have a gravelly voice, aka Simon Temple, that was the voice of the original fucking Kain, saying something like, "Sometimes when you flip a coin, you're always trying to go for another throw, a better throw. Sometimes fate plays its own role." And then you hear the standard screech sound that you would normally hear in the background during a Legacy of Kain game, aka Soul Reaver and Blood Omen. Can you imagine a film like that? Thank you, Simon Templeman. I mean, again, film critics would destroy the shit out of it, but it's not for them. It's for the audience. And the audience that would see that film would be Legacy of Kain fans, Blood Omen fans. It's interesting, you know, that certain films in certain genres would get destroyed. If it's not a love story, it's not making it to the Oscars. If it's not a coming-of-age story in a foreign world, it's not making it to the Oscars. Lord forbid if it's an English-speaking country making if it's not an English-speaking country making a film. The Academy will never recognize it. They never would. I'd love to see a Hellraiser game, but the implementation of it would be... Clive Barker tried it with his game called Jericho. It didn't go well. Cabin in the Woods... Dead Space might be all right. See, the problem with first-person shooters is that they focus these days, at least in the last like 10 years or so, focus more on a multiplayer aspect as they do the actual story itself. And that's the problem. And don't get me wrong, there are a couple of films that do manage to actually slip past the critics' eyes. And every once in a while, a good film does get made. But you also got to look at it from a sense of a majority point. You know, gimmicky films need to go away. Because they have no substance to them. They rely too much on a particular aspect. They focus so much more on just making the audience cringe, as opposed to good story, as opposed to good camera direction, as opposed to good writing, as opposed to good acting. They just want the person to react as much as they possibly can to the idea of their skull being broken open and fed to them openly. And Cabin in the Woods was so bad it was good. I liked it because it was that bad. Okay? It's getting to be that time. Saw, you want to know what? Here's my problem with Saw. Okay? Saw lost its way when you have what's known as a casual audience. Okay, Joshua? This is why Saw is in the state in which it's in. Okay? Saw's problem was that people began to focus so fucking much on the gore of it that it drew the focus away from the story. If you were to focus it just on the story and try to ignore all the gory shit, you have a decent film. Believe it or not. That's the thing. I'm actually working right now. I've got all the Saw films. I'm working right now on a personal cut that takes all of the flashback footage and cuts them together. I can understand that, Troop Christina. By the way, folks, those of you that are just tuning in, share the shit out of this to groups. Share this to your friends' timelines. Groups especially. I'm serious. You share this out, I guarantee you, man. This, you'll get more good quality and more of this. Be able to continue to have it. See, that was the first film, Josh. Second film, they put him in a house. You know? Thank you, Troop Christina. Thank you. And for those of you that don't know, I actually do have merch if I can help it. This actually helps me be able to, you know, maybe get better quality camera, maybe a better quality mic. And it helps out the station too. But yeah, I mean, Saw was a good story if you know what to do with it. The implementation of it was good at first, but the problem is they rolled the dice on it and they're paying for it now, unfortunately. When you release backstory piecemeal the way that they have, it ends up pulling away from the actual film itself. You know, if they were really fucking subtle on a lot of the backstory, that's the problem with it. I legit think that whole fucking film, the entire series, I think it was all written out from the get-go, so all the little twists that we've been getting, they've always been there. It's just you didn't notice. But when they start relaying more and more and more, when they start showing more and more of the backstory, a lot of it makes you go, you know, that makes fucking sense now. And I'm telling you guys, the reason why it went downhill after the first one is because they made gore more of the focus. It's like the backstory's over here, which is really fucking interesting. But hey, look at these great fucking makeup effects that we got going on. You see it? You see it? You see it? And then it makes you completely ignore what's back here. The subtext. The actual story itself. Which they don't reveal until near the end of the film. You notice that? Near the end of the film, they start doing little flashes of all the flashbacks and shit that you watch the traps getting put into place. You watch who was talking to who and why, what the actual connections were. That just make you go, Lore and story should always be at the forefront of a film. Always. The moment you take that away, you lose all. Almost immediately. They did, Troop Tom. They did. Not in the last one, but in the one before. The last one that came out. The last one that came out was called Jigsaw. The last one to actually carry the name Saw itself, they did with the ending, in my opinion. Spoilers for those that haven't seen it, because the movie's over 10 years old. If you haven't seen it, that's your fault. When they revealed Lawrence Gordon to actually be one of Saw's disciples. The guy from the first film. The blonde guy. That was a fucking reveal and a goddamn half. And it made so much sense. You see, and that ultimately is what really set it apart. You know, the little twist like that. When it got revealed that Jill Tuck, the wife, was in on the fucking plots from the get-go. You know, it's like the little twists along those lines make you go, interesting. That's right, Troop Gabby. And the thing is that Saw is a film about the how and the why. And that's what makes them good. But it flings the what right in your face so much, you lose focus on everything else. And unfortunately, as long as audiences love gore, you're going to get a lot more focus on the gore. And yes, I just flexed. Any other questions, comments, concerns, complaints, cash payments, buy my merch, share the shit out of this. Ooh, I got a lot of rice in my neck. The chat kind of went quiet. Interesting. I wonder if that's continual. I'm about to check. It's interesting. There we go. Ooh, check. No, the chat is just that quiet right now. Monster flicks are okay. They're okay. You just need a good, innovative monster these days. And we don't really have that anymore. Because we've kind of milked the hell out of some of them. I mean, we don't have... Zombies have been done to death. They need to go away, okay? If you want to ever revisit them, they legitimately have to go away for about a good 20 years. Bring them back then. Okay? The Nightmare on Elm Street movies were good, but they played upon innocence and naivete. And that's been unfortunately done a bit to death too. Alien movies, possibly, but we got to make them more realistic at this point. They can be done. They can be done. I mean, what really makes it a monster these days? What makes anything a monster? I honestly think at this point, I mean, they even tried to turn humans to monsters in regards to the film The Purge. That human nature itself is its own monster. It makes sense. That's true, James. That's true. Alone in the Dark was a great game. They really fucked it up in the freaking movie. Creature features. That's what my mother used to call films where you have somebody that looks overtly goth. And they used to call it, you look like the guy that used to freaking host Creature Feature. Every single time somebody says that. You know? I mean, in all honesty, humanity is one of the greatest freaking monsters out there. And a lot of us here know what that's about. And I know that film will get better. It's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time. And we've got all the time in the world. And who knows? Maybe somebody in this chat is getting inspired to write a screenplay. One that will ultimately get an Oscar. That would be epic. Be the next freaking Blumhouse chief director. Be the person that brings games to the forefront. Glad to hear it there, Troop Josh. Glad to hear it. You want to know? Yeah. I'll give you a little bit of interesting bit here. You know they're making a Five Nights at Freddy's movie? They're making a Five Nights at Freddy's film. So games are being seen as a good source. You know, not everybody can be Clive Barker or Wes Craven. But you don't have to be. Be you. And fuck what the critics say. Because those that can't do, teach. And those that can't teach, criticize. Those that do. On that note, folks, I think I'm going to call it a night. I hope that you all share the hell out of this. Take what I said to heart. And have a great fucking weekend. Buy my merch, share this out, and I hope every single one of you kicks fucking ass. Hit the rack. Have a great weekend. I'll see you all on Monday night. Rant Commander out.